Good, thank you, Jude. Have you filed your taxes yet? Tax day is April 18th, and the IRS is warning everyone to file taxes the correct way. WDRB investigates how often people are getting in trouble for tax fraud. Filing your taxes seems routine. Happens every year. But the IRS is watching for tax fraud.
You have some people think that just because it's a white-collar crime, they didn't hurt no one, so they did nothing wrong. But in fact, they stole from the system.
Located close to the airport, a Louisville aviation repair shop owner did not fly under the radar of the feds. In his mugshot, Christopher Moyer is wearing a shirt with his business logo, TT Repairs.
He took advantage of the system, and he took advantage of his workers as well.
Last month, Moyer was federally sentenced for failing to pay federal income and insurance taxes from 2015 to 2018.
He withheld taxes from his employees' paychecks, but instead of paying that over to the IRS, he took that money and lived lavishly. He bought expensive cars, had lived an expensive lifestyle on that money that was actually should have been turned over to the IRS as employment taxes.
And in that case, he had to pay back $1 million, is that correct?
Yes, he was ordered to pay restitution in the form of I think it was 1.2, and he had to pay that back to the government.
In fiscal year 2022, IRS criminal investigations identified $5.7 billion in tax fraud nationwide. The agency says it investigated more than 1,300 criminal tax cases with nearly 700 people sentenced. In October, Louisville attorney Keith Hunter was sentenced to 27 months in prison and was ordered to pay a $15,000 fine.
Mr. Hunter was a local attorney who, instead of taking the payments that he received from clients and client settlements and putting it in an account that attorneys can't touch, he took that money and he lived a lavish lifestyle. Investigators
say the 65-year-old from the Zilke law firm owed more than $1.1 million for not paying taxes between 2000 and 2011. The feds say he concealed his assets from the IRS.
Bought expensive cars. He even put his house in a nonprofit organization so that if the IRS came and tried to collect on some of that money, that they wouldn't be able to touch his home. And he didn't file any of that as income on his tax returns. So he just took that money from his clients and potential settlements and just did what he wanted to do with it. And that's fraud. You can't do that.
What do you want to say to other people, other professionals who may be in similar situations?
Eventually, they will get caught.
No one from Hunter's previous law firm returned our messages. WDRB dug through Hunter and Moyer federal cases. The court order shows Moyer was sentenced to 15 months in prison to start no sooner than April 3rd. The court allowed him to take a business trip from late February to early March to Dubai for an aviation convention so he could possibly sell his business. We reached out to Moyer to get his side of the story. He declined an on-camera interview, but in an email said, "My side of the story, LOL. I didn't pay taxes and got in trouble for that. What could I say that could add to that?" He goes on to write, "Most of the monies not paid were left in the business. In doing that, I've built a successful enterprise that does business on every continent."
We can go back up to 6 years and look at what happened 6 years ago, because we usually look for patterns.
As people file their taxes, the IRS has this message.
There are mistakes. Those are not the people that we're interested in. We're interested in people who did the behavior last year, the year before that. We're out there and we will investigate and we will prosecute the fullest, the extent of the law.
With photojournalist Stuart Hammer, Valerie Chin, WDRB News. If you have information about this story or any story you think our Investigates team should look into, you can email us at investigate@wdrb.com.